As we begin this broadcast, Israel has still not been able to form a government. The deadline is midnight Israeli time, just 1 hour from right now. By the end of the hour, we should know whether Netanyahu has been able to form a government or whether Israel will be going to new elections. These pending developments will definitely have an impact on the prophecies of the Bible that lie just ahead. We've talked many times on this program about the prophecy that will be the greatest prophetic fulfillment in 2,000 years. I know we've talked about it repeatedly, but it's still coming. The elections that are pending in Israel today could have everything to do with the fulfillment of this particular prophecy. The Bible teaches that when a peace agreement is signed between Israel and the Palestinians, this will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, pause a moment and think about that. This is a prophecy with a specific date line attached to it. Most of the prophecies do not have. But this particular prophecy, when this agreement is signed, you can mark your calendar. You are 7 years away from the second coming, the physical second coming of Jesus Christ to this earth and the Battle of Armageddon that will occur at the same time. Now, it's because of that we're watching the elections in Israel so close. President Trump has put together a peace plan called the Deal of the Century. He's put off revealing the plan again and again, number one, because of Israeli elections. Now, if Prime Minister Netanyahu does not get a government put together within the next 30 minutes, it appears Israel will be going back to new elections tentatively scheduled for September the 17th. Will this put off the presentation of Trump's peace plan again? According to articles today, the answer is no. They're not going to put it off anymore, regardless of the political situation in Israel. So we wait with great interest. I'm hoping to tell you before the end of this broadcast whether we will be going to new elections on September the 17th or whether Netanyahu was able to cobble together a last-minute coalition to install a new government as of today. Now, you may be wondering, as I was, so what's the big problem? What's the stopper in the jug? What's the bottleneck? I took some time to research it so I could share it with you. An article appeared in the Jerusalem Post just a day or so ago, The Unsolvable Puzzle of Haredi Enlistment Analysis. Now, what they're talking about is the whole issue is over a law that religious men and women must serve in the Israeli armed forces. There has been an exemption for religious young men to not serve in the armed forces. Consequently, this has been a source of a lot of tension in Israel. It wasn't so much a number of years ago because the religious faction only was perhaps 10% of the population. But because of the rapid increase of the families of the Haredi. They now make up about 25% of the population, but none of them serve in the armed forces. Consequently, this is throwing an extra burden on the non-religious families, and the resentment has been building over and over and over again. Now, let me walk you through this real quick so you can really understand it, because this is what toppled the government back in December of last year. It still is blocking the formation of a government after recent elections this year. And if they cannot reach some kind of an agreement, it will block the formation of a new government and force Israel back into elections. Let's take a look at the article so you can really get the essence of it. Yet again, the issue of Haredi enlistment in the IDF, that's Israeli Defense Forces, has caused a major political upheaval. And we could yet go to an election over it in the next 3 months. Moreover, the matter has been on the political table for 20 years since the Tau Commission was formed to examine the historical blanket exemption Haredi yeshiva students received from the military since Israel's establishment. Now, that's the essence of it. We'll talk about it more.
We've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. We will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now. Visit endtime.com.
Have you had a longing to visit the cities where Jesus healed, ministered, and taught every day? Judy and I would like to invite you to travel to the wonderful land of Israel. Experience the Word of God in vivid color while walking down the roads of the Holy Land with us.
When you are ready to experience Israel, we recommend you travel with Endtime Ministries. You will not only experience historical and present-day Israel, you will also learn about the prophesied future to come. It's as if we traveled back in time to visit a different era and discovered ourselves in an ancient time. The tour is very well organized, the accommodations are first class, and the food is delicious. If you have ever had a desire to visit Israel, there is no better time than now. Ann from Colorado.
To sign up to receive your Experience Israel 2019 packet, call Adrian or Jana at 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com. We can't wait to experience Israel with you.
So it's been about 20 years where the religious segment of Israel has enjoyed exemption from service in the Israeli Defense Forces. Now, recently, they have more or less decided to continue that exemption. The Supreme Court in 2017 struck down the government's reinstatement of a Haredi enlistment exemption and demanded a new law be passed within a year, meaning by September of 2018. So the Supreme Court looked at this whole situation and said, it's just not fair that some Israeli citizens are required to go into the defense forces, and by the way, both men and women are required, and yet for a large segment of the Israeli population to be exempted. So the Supreme Court said, You've got to get a new law to fix this situation by September of 2018. Then Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman ordered his ministry to draft a bill, which it did, with input from the IDF and consultations with Haredi figures. That bill passed a first reading in the Knesset. Now let me pause there to explain. Laws in Israel pass a first, second, and third reading before actually becoming law. So it passed a first reading. Many times after a law passes a first reading, then there will be alterations or amendments to that law. And that's a common thing to happen. Now, the proposal that was passed consists of setting annual enlistment targets, which would increase each year, and economic penalties in the yeshiva budget. Yeshiva is a religious school if those targets are not met. And that's where things got stuck. By the time September 2018 came around, the government petitioned the court for an extension, which it received. But even with the extra time, an election was called in December, partly because the Haredi parties would not agree to any version of the bill that would satisfy the Supreme Court. Now, this brings us to the current impasse in coalition negotiations. Now, remember, the elections were declared in December of 2018. They then were held. The right-wing parties altogether won 65 seats, which is plenty to put together a government. However, when Netanyahu got ready to compile his coalition, Avigdor Lieberman put his feet in the ground and said, unless the enlistment bill is signed and kept just as it is, I am not becoming part of the coalition. Lieberman's party had 5 seats. With 65-seat majority, those 5 seats brought it down to 60, which is not enough, because to put together a government, you have to have 60 plus 1. Consequently, they've been haggling over this for the last 28 days plus 14 days. Still, we're at the last hour. We're literally in the last hour right now. And according to what I read just before I came on this broadcast, it will be decided at the half past the hour, about 15 minutes from right now, whether to hold an election, a vote, to disperse the Knesset, which then would force new elections. So that's where we're standing right now. Now, the big question is, where is God in all of this? We know since Trump has this peace plan ready to present it, and since Netanyahu is such a key player, we know that the hand of God is working behind the scenes. We just don't know exactly how. We don't know whether the new elections, if that is in fact what happens, and like I said, I'm hoping to tell you before this broadcast is over, we don't know whether the new elections would bring in new players, would perhaps change the whole situation. We simply do not know. But this has everything to do with the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, because there's going to be a peace agreement between the Palestinians and Israelis. I mean, could it be? Could it be that the blue and white party, which is more liberal, that would be willing to give up much more for peace with the Palestinians, could it be that they would end up being able to form the next elections or the next government? I simply do not know. But it's going to be so interesting to see how all of this is going to play out. Now, much like in last year's political crisis over Haredi enlistment, Agudat Israel, the Hasidic party within United Torah Judaism, and especially Rabbi Yaakov Ere Alter, the grand rabbi of the Ger Hasidic community, the biggest in Israel, is holding the hard line on enlistment. They're saying, no, we're not going to allow you to draft our young men into the Israeli armed forces. They need to be studying the Torah. Now, that's their contention. Meanwhile, there are compromises on the table. Shah's negotiator and former minister Ariel Atheist has found a way for there to be changes and no changes at the same time. Now, that sounds like a real political deal. We're going to have changes, but we're not going to have changes. Well, that's not going to be satisfactory to Avigdor Lieberman. He's been putting up with this for many years now, always trying to get this problem settled, but it never being settled. Now, Lieberman, he is not religious. He is secular. But he believes that the religious need to share their portion of the burden for defending the nation of Israel. And you got to realize how important the army of Israel is. They are one war away from extinction. They cannot lose one war. Therefore, they hold their army in the very highest regard. And people who serve in the armed forces look down their nose in derision at many people who refuse to. So this has become more and more a bone of contention between the secular part of Israel and the religious faction in Israel. And by the way, the secular part is bigger than the religious. So the defense ministry does not set the enlistment target numbers, leaving that to a government decision. Now, this is the compromise they're trying to strike. Okay, we're going to let the government make this decision, so there's not going to be anything set in stone. Atiyah suggested that the government authorize target numbers first and then pass the bill unchanged. Now, so far, the Haredi side accepted the compromise, but Israel Netanyahu, which is Lieberman's party, says no. Now, if no agreement is reached, then we're going to elections, and we're going to know before this broadcast is over. We will soon know how this game of chicken between the Haredi parties and Israel Netanyahu will end, either with a dissolved Knesset and Israel going to vote twice in 1 year, or with the unsolvable puzzle of Haredi enlistment pieced together, at least somewhat, after 20 years of political debate. So that is the complex situation that Israel has been wrestling with over the last 20 years. It seems like there is no solution because the religious parties have 16 seats in the Knesset right now. Israel Netanyahu has 5 seats, but both of them have enough seats that they cannot that Netanyahu cannot form a government without either of the factions. So that's what's going on right now, even as I speak to you, because the deadline is midnight. Israel is 8 hours ahead of us. That means that in just a little bit over half an hour, they will hit their deadline. But they have to take the vote at the bottom of the hour, or they won't have time to do it. Consequently, the vote will be taken within about the next 10 minutes unless some kind of a backroom deal is able to be struck to avoid this particular situation. Now, we are going to take your calls in our program today. If you'd like to be on the air with me, the number to call is 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. Now, I want to make sure that you fully appreciate the effect that this is going to have on all of us, because I'm looking here. This article just appeared in Israel National News a few minutes ago. U.S. says we aren't planning to change the release date of the peace plan. Already the Trump administration has announced that we are going to have a financial meeting in Bahrain on the 17th of June. Many players have agreed to attend, including excuse me, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Egypt, Israel, and the United States, plus many others. Now, they plan to release the economic half of Trump's peace plan, and that will take place on June the 17th, unless there's a change of course. So that's where we are right now. It is going to throw this, if there are to be new elections, then it's going to throw this plan right in the middle of the new elections, and you can be sure that it is going to hit the table, and all the parties involved in the elections will have to make decisions. Consequently, that's where we are right now. Okay, now let's think about this. Since the Trump plan is going to be presented within 30 days, and let's say that it takes off and gains momentum, how quickly could we actually see a peace deal done? Let's say that this plan is so compelling. We know that President Trump intends to totally transform the Middle East. He intends for Gaza to have plenty of jobs, plenty of clean water, plenty of electricity, which they don't have. Right now, Gaza has an unemployment rate of 50%. 50% of the people of Gaza do not have jobs. Trump intends to change all of that with massive infusions of capital and end of industry. Now think about this. Already they've said Saudi Arabia is going to build an oil pipeline from Saudi Arabia into Gaza, and then they're going to build 2 refining plants. All of a sudden, big industry is going to be in Gaza. Now, it's going to be a lot more than that. Israel plans to build an international airport, an international seaport. I mean, Trump says, why do we keep playing with this? We've been messing with this for 70 years. There's no reason, with all the resources that we have between the wealthy countries of the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they've got incredibly amounts of money, United States of America, and Trump is willing to do this. Well, that's where we are right now. So it's a very interesting time that we're living in. And like I told you, I'm hoping after the break at the bottom of this hour to let you know whether Israel has struck a last-minute deal or whether we will be going to elections on September the 17th, I believe is the date that they have now chosen. That means they're going to have a whole new campaign. Here we are, May the 29th. So we'll have June, July, and August, 3 months to campaign, and then new elections. We don't know how that's going to turn out. Nevertheless, it will change the face of the Middle East, I promise you. It's going to be very interesting. Well, let's go ahead and get to the phones right now. David is calling from Virginia. Hello, David.
Hey, Pastor Baxter. It's an honor to talk to you, sir.
Thank you.
I was curious to know what your, who are the 4 and 24 elders in Revelations 4:4, And in Zechariah 14:21, it says, there shall be no Canaanite in the house of the Lord. I was wondering what that meant.
As far as the 4 and 20 elders, it appears to me that those symbolize the 12 apostles and the 12 tribes of Israel. We know the Bible says that the church is built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. When you go to Revelation chapter number 21 and you see the New Jerusalem, we know that the 12 foundations have the names of the 12 apostles in them. We also know that the 12 gates have the names of the 12 tribes of Israel in them. So it appears to me, and I would not claim infallibility on this point, but it's the best I've been able to come up with, that the 24 elders represent the Old Testament church and the New Testament church. Now, David, would you repeat for me the last portion of your question?
And in Zechariah 14:21, it says, there shall be no Canaanite in the house of the Lord.
Well, I can't tell you for certain except to tell you that the Canaanites, the Palestinians claim to be descendants of the Canaanites. And so it may be the judgment of the Palestinians because they have been enemy number one of Israel, both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. It may indicate that they will not have any part in the things of God during the millennial reign. Again, don't take that to the bank as absolute, but that's the closest I've been able to come up with.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Okay, well, thank you too, David. I do want to apologize for the difficulty I'm having with my throat today. We're going to continue taking your calls in the second half of the program. You're listening to End of the Age. To contact us, 1-800-END-TIME.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
On this very pivotal prophetic day when Israel, it looks like Israel's going to elections, to new elections. That's the very last word I got. I cannot tell you absolutely that could not be altered at the very last minute, but that's the last news flash I got from news during the break. Now, let's go right back to the phones now. Let's go to Alabama. Jan is calling from Alabama. Hello, Jan.
Hi. Yeah, you were talking about how some Jews are secular, I think is the word you used.
Yes.
And some are religious.
Right.
And I would like to ask your opinion, is Netanyahu religious or secular?
He's sort of in between. A lot of times when he goes to certain meetings, he will have a kippah on. However, I'm not sure.
Is that what they wear on their head?
Yeah, that's the little, what we sometimes call a skull cap, but the name for it is a kippah. And the reason the men wear that is to remind them that there's someone above them, God. Now, in the New Testament, we know we're instructed that men are not to pray with their head covered, but uncovered. So we're in sort of an opposite situation as Christians as to the practice that they carry. Nevertheless, I don't think Netanyahu is strictly religious. He certainly would not be as religious as some are. There's all shades in Israel. There's probably 20% that we would consider real religious. There's probably 50% that we would consider totally secular. The other 30% are somewhere in between. So that's probably the best I can tell you right now with what's happening in Israel.
Very interesting. Thank you.
You're most welcome. As a matter of fact, some people claim that 50% of Jews in Israel are atheists. Now, I think they're atheists until a war starts, and then all of a sudden they decide it's time to pray. So consequently, but an awful lot of people in Israel are atheists. Some of them say if there were a God, he would never allow the Holocaust to happen. Others, the Holocaust drove them to God. So there's all kinds of different belief systems in Israel, and yet the religious faction is very powerful. For example, most business places do shut down on the Sabbath day. Even places that are run by people who are not religious, they are intimidated by the religious faction in Israel, and so they're almost compelled to shut down. Most people in Israel do observe the Sabbath day in that they don't drive, they don't work. Now, there are some very, very religious sectors of Jerusalem where if you drove your car down through their neighborhood on the Sabbath day, your car would be stoned. They'd break the windows out of your car. They might even block your way with trash cans and things like that. Those are the very, very extreme religious people in Israel. So that's sort of the picture of what takes place there. Okay, let's go now to Texas. Gary's calling from Texas. Hello, Gary.
Yes, Irvin, thank you. How can the 144,000 witnesses in Revelation be from the 12 tribes of Israel when those tribes don't exist any longer?
Well, first of all, Gary, the Bible does not call the 144,000 witnesses. It just simply says that they're sealed. Now, I know it's been taught by a lot of people that these will be 144,000 evangelists, but that's not what the Bible says. It merely says that 144,000 will be sealed by God, 12,000 out of each tribe. The Bible teaches in Ezekiel chapter 9 that the sealing will take place in Jerusalem. So many people believe that over the last 2,000 years, there's been an intermingling of the tribes, and that all the tribes have now found their way back into Jerusalem and back into Israel. I have not done an extensive study on this, but I have to believe that all 144,000 will be there, or else there could not be a sealing of the 144,000.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for your explanation. I appreciate it very much.
Well, there's another thing to think about. We know that Jesus lived up in the area of the Galilee.
Where?
The Galilee was up in northern Israel, the part that used to be Israel. The northern kingdom was Israel. The southern kingdom was Judah. So it appears that the northern part of Israel during the Roman Empire had a lot of Jewish people in it. And I cannot, again, speak with authority on how many of those came from the different tribes, but that's something I have been wanting to study. Hopefully I'll find some time to do that one of these days.
Great. Thank you. And when you do, please share it with us.
Yeah, I sure will. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Gary. Let's now go to Texas. James is calling from Texas.
Hello, Irvin.
Hi, James.
I'm watching here in Daniel 7, verse 4. The first was like a lion that had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given him. And this sounds exactly like Uncle Sam. And the United States is blessed because of this, because it's a man's heart, not a beast's heart. I feel you're kind of overlooking this.
Actually, that's exactly what I believe and exactly what I teach.
Okay, but I never seem to hear it on the air.
Okay, well, maybe we've just not gone over that territory when you were listening, but the eagle's wings were definitely the United States. Then when they're broken off, the Bible says, and it was given the heart of a man and made stand up on the feet as a man, speaking of Uncle Sam. Why would the Bible say that it was given the heart of a man? Excuse me. Well, one reason is because America has been a very benevolent country. We go in during a war and we will defeat our enemies, and then we'll go back in and build them back and help them to recover. Whereas most countries, when they defeat an enemy, they'll go in and spoil the enemy and take everything of value they have. So I believe that perfectly matches the character of the United States, in that the heart of a man was given to it. So I fully agree with you about that, James.
Great. Yeah, and Israel is not a heart of a beast either. It is depicted as a woman.
Yes, that is right. So very interesting when you see all these nuances of the prophecies and how accurately they're coming to pass. The beast of Daniel 7, all of them go into the one world government beast in Revelation 13, and they make up the kingdom of the Antichrist. They will truly be beastly in nature, but America and Israel will be against the one world government of the Antichrist, all during the final 3.5 years that we call the Great Tribulation.
I was listening to the radio the other day when Dave Robbins was talking, and he said about all over in Europe right now, they've got these populists that are kind of dragging the feet against the one world government over there. And I feel it's kind of probably going to cause the ire of Macron and the rest of them in that group to start being very hardliners from now on.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's a tremendous struggle taking place in Europe right now because the Europeans, some of them are watching President Trump as he is pulling America out of the New World Order and saying we are going to retain our national sovereignty. Some of them want to imitate that. And of course, Great Britain is pulling out of the European Union as well. So a lot of them want to do that. However, that's not the way it's going to end up. We know for certain that Europe is going to end up together, and that will be the power base of the Antichrist. So this present struggle taking place is going to be won by the globalist.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, listen, James, thank you very much. Appreciate the phone call.
You're welcome.
Okay, if you'd like to be on the air with us, we do have open lines today. The number to call, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. And I do want to apologize for my very bad throat. I'm not able to speak like I usually can, but hopefully we'll be better soon. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Our excellent technicians here always sort of back me up, and Jim Stiglman always has a backup tape waiting. And since we don't have callers right now and my voice is so rough and difficult, if Jim is ready, I'd like for him just to plug us in a tape for the rest of this hour, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. If we can do that, can we do that, Jim? This coalition of 10 nations, and that's the exact number that he proposed. This happened back in May, and he called it the Union of the Willing. And when I saw his name, Emmanuel, which is God with us, in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2, says that the Antichrist will stand in the temple of God claiming to be God. Now, I'm like you, Goldie. I'm not willing to say at all that Macron is the Antichrist. I don't know that yet. But he certainly has to be in the top 5 as we watch, because it is almost time for the Antichrist to be manifest out of Europe. And so it makes us to really take a long, hard look. And all of us must do that. You know, we're going to watch all this come to pass. We're going to watch it happen right in front of our eyes. And the big question, I guess, is, what are we going to do about it? Now, when we get back from this break, I'm going to take a moment to tell you what I think you and I should be doing about it right now. We'll be right back.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
Many Christians admit end-time Bible prophecy is very complex and difficult to understand, and for some, a little bit scary. But what if you could understand Bible prophecy? What if you could know what will happen and how the United States will play a key role during end-time events? When you call today and get Understanding the End Time DVD curriculum, you can have peace about what is to come while understanding the prophetic events that appear in our headlines every day. When you call or go online to endtime.com and order, you'll learn the answer to the biggest prophecy question of all. Will the rapture take place, and when will it happen? This 14-part DVD series is the definitive end-time prophecy Bible study available. And for this limited time, you can get it for just $149. Don't miss this special offer. Understanding the End Time. Call now. 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME. Or go to endtime.com today.
You're listening to an End of the Age encore presentation.
Of course, the question that's burning in all of our hearts and minds is, how close are we? How close are we to the beginning of the final 7 years? The Bible teaches that there's going to be a peace agreement signed between Israel and the Palestinians, and that peace agreement signing will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to Armageddon and the second physical return of Jesus to this earth. Think about that. It's especially interesting that President Trump has announced that he wants to release his peace plan that he promised before he was ever elected. Since then, he calls it the deal of the century. He talks about the deal that just can't be done, but he wants to try to do it. Now remember, this is the man that wrote The Art of the Deal. He sees himself as knowing how to bring sides together when no one else can. He's already made some dramatic moves in the Middle East that were totally outside the box. He recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. He moved our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He's visited Saudi Arabia, and he's been establishing close relations with other Arab countries. So he's already making a lot of moves. His special representative to the Middle East, Jason Greenblatt, his lawyer of the last 20 years, is preparing the way for the releasing of this peace plan. This is not just a general outline. This is an in-depth plan dealing with all the outstanding issues. And if it should receive Israeli and Palestinian acceptance, it could move really fast. So what's the possibility that the final 7 years could start in 2019? Now, I'm not here to tell you that it will happen. I don't know the answer to that. It's going to come, but I can't tell you it's going to be in 2019. But the odds are pretty high. So I want to ask you this question. What if it does start, the final 7 years would start in this coming year, 2019? I want to tell you once again today, because it's been a while since I told you. I feel like I have to tell you this. But for some long time, I have been concerned about this. This will be the greatest prophetic fulfillment in the last 2,000 years. I mean, once they sign this agreement, you can mark an X on your calendar. From now on, we've got 7 years left to reach this world, to fulfill the Great Commission, to preach the gospel in all nations. So what should we do? Are you ready today? Let's say the final 7 years began today. What would you do? Are you prepared? Do you even understand it all? Now, the Bible says in Daniel chapter 11, verse 33, about this final 7 years, they that understand among the people shall instruct many. So my question to you is, do you understand? Are you qualified to instruct many? Can you teach your family? How about your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, your churches? Now, we need to have people that are well-trained. Fortunately, God has put in our hands the Jerusalem Prophecy College. If you go through this college, you'll be more qualified to instruct many than 99% of the graduates from theological seminary. You will know more about the prophecies of the Bible than almost any graduate from any theological seminary. Now, here's what I want to talk to you about. About 11 months ago, I had a dream. And I dreamed that they had just signed this peace agreement. In my dream, people were sort of milling around me like startled, sort of paralyzed, really, as if to say, we're bewildered. What do we do? I woke up. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I felt the Lord speak to my heart and say, what you just dreamed is going to happen. What are you going to do about it? I went to prayer that morning. I said, God, what do you want me to do? And it just seemed so apparent to me that I should come to this radio microphone and I should ask you to enroll in the Jerusalem Prophecy College. Now, you can do it. It's available anywhere in the world. Wherever you're listening to me today, you can do this. Here's exactly what you need to do. On your computer or even on your phone, you can go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. It'll bring up a page where you can register, fill out the information, and then it will give you the page where you can enroll in your first course. There's a total of 11 semesters or courses. Each semester has between 18 and 13 lessons depending on the particular course. You can enroll in your first course and get started. Now, we have a very small maintenance fee. I don't even want to call it tuition because it's so small. Most colleges charge hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per semester. We're only asking for a $59 maintenance fee per semester. Almost anyone can afford that. So you go there, fill out the information, and then you start with your first course. By the time you get through with the first 14 lessons, you'll know more about Bible prophecy than almost all the graduates from theological seminary. In 14 simple lessons, it will astound you. And it's so easy to understand. Then you continue on semester after semester. By the time you get finished, you will be eminently qualified to instruct many. So I'm urging every one of you. Now, when I started out, I felt like the Lord impressed me. You need to have 1,000 people graduate from Jerusalem Prophecy College. Well, I announced that about 11 months ago now. We had 200 students at the time. Today we have 2,400 students. But is that enough when you've got 7 billion people to reach, actually 7.5 billion people on earth right now? I mean, really, we need 100,000 people to sign up for the Jerusalem Prophecy College, and you can do it right now. Now, one more time. One, go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. The page will come up. Register. Then enroll in your first course and get started. I recently talked to a man that finished the entire college in 4 months. He was retired. He could almost put his full time into it. And he went through it and finished it in 4 months. Now, that's going to be faster than most of you can do it. But you can reasonably expect to do it in a year, year and a half. That's the reason you've got to get started now. Because if they sign this peace agreement in 2019, you don't need to be studying and learning about it. You need to be prepared. I mean, it's like Noah building an ark. He didn't need to wait till it started raining to start building on his ark. He would have drowned. We need to start today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're hearing me. Don't wait another day. JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Get started today. Let's go back to the phones now. Jay's calling from right here in Texas. Hello, Jay.
Brother Baxter?
Yes.
How you doing, sir? I was calling because I was listening to your program and about Macron.
Yes.
Have you heard that article that he wants to release his own peace treaty before Donald Trump?
Yes, actually, he said if Trump doesn't go ahead and release his right away, then he's going to release one from France. You're right.
That's kind of scary because he's calling for the 10-nation coalition, and now he wants to release his own treaty. Peace.
Yeah, and that could really happen because the Palestinians say we're not interested in Donald Trump's treaty. He betrayed us when he moved the embassy to Jerusalem and recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Therefore, we're not interested in his treaty. Could it be that the attention could swing to Emmanuel Macron's treaty? And by the way, world leaders are coming together the 11th of this month, including Vladimir Putin, including Donald Trump. They're all headed to Europe to celebrate the end of World War I. It's 100 years celebration. So while they're there, will they talk about this peace deal? I'll be shocked if they did not talk about it. So I think you're right, Jay. I don't think we can ignore the fact that he does have a peace agreement that he himself has designed, and he would like for France to take the lead. We're going to have to wait and see what happens.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I thank you for reminding me of that. Let's go. For some reason, Texas is alive and well today. Let's go to Ben right here in Texas. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Irvin. Real quick, just got a question. You know, after the election and, you know, the Democrats taking control of the House and the Senate, where does this kind of, with this peace treaty maybe, possibly getting signed, where does this put us on the timetable of World War III going on in the Sixth Trumpet War? And I'll take your answer off the air. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. And, you know, we have to ask that question. I wish we didn't have to, but we do have to, because Revelation 9, verse 13 through 21 tells us a war is coming. that will wipe out 1/3 of mankind. We're talking about 2.5 billion people. I mean, 40 times World War II, the worst war the world has ever known. Multiply it by 40. It's coming. Now, there's a lot of tension building right now between the U.S., China, and Russia. We just now announced we're getting out of a nuclear treaty that was negotiated between Gorbachev and Reagan. Why are we getting out? Because President Trump says that Russia's been violating the treaty. Now, let me tell you, it's easy to write Trump off because he appears to be rather bombastic. But I've been watching this ever since he became the president for the last 2 years. And when he says certain things that seem a little outlandish, you watch for a while. Most of the time it's proven to be true. Remember when he said that the Obama administration was wiretapping his candidacy? Everybody laughed him to scorn. Now we're finding out it's true. They got a FISA warrant, secretly got it, and they were wiretapping members of the Trump campaign. Well, that's happened several times about different things. So I'm not so fast to write Donald Trump off now as I once was. Well, so where are we today? Well, we know there's a lot of pressure building between us and China because China is determined to be the dominant force in the world. Supposedly the 21st century is to be the Chinese century. But now then, President Trump is saying, hold everything because we've been running a $500 billion deficit per year with you. That's not going to happen any longer. He's now demanding that the trade become balanced. He's doing this with Japan. He's doing this with Europe. He's doing this with Mexico, with Canada. And of course he's right. I mean, we've been running this huge trade deficit for years, and we wonder why our deficit keeps going higher and higher and higher. We're now over $20 trillion in debt. Okay, but when you start demanding a basic change in relationships, China is determined to take control of her part of the world. There's a lot of different contentious issues between us and China, now between us and Russia, and even between us and Europe. You say, well, should that be? Yes, it should. The Bible prophesies that America is not going to be a part of the one world government. We should thank God for it. But we are going to defend Israel against the one world government. Everything the Bible prophesies is coming to pass right now. If you'd like to learn more about that, we have a DVD called America's God-Given Destiny. I would urge you to order it today. 800 Endtime is the number to call.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.